Both these players playing for 6-0 here today. So this match, a lot of the line here. Both of them going to start at 36.
And when you see Michael Hamilton abandon a hero like Oldhim, which is unquestionably well positioned right now, it says something. I think it says something serious. And both players did ultimately go with Illuvian Constellus. But there's a difference here. Alexander Vore, despite having access to the Null Rune Hood, decided to deploy Coronet Peak instead. And let's keep a close eye on that. Let's see how that card influences this matchup. Because a really interesting difference in opinion there.
Yeah, it does look like we're going to be starting off with Alexander Vore. And look, right away.
Coronet Peak, step 1. Now, this is a filtering move. This really
Right.
isn't going to accomplish all that much in terms of disrupting Michael Hamilton. But still, an interesting thing to do on turn 1. And maybe even the purpose of that card. Like
I was about to ask the same thing, yeah.
It does really matter that much. Like I said, the snowball in this matchup is going to be very intense. So just fixing your hand on the first turn could be very, very important.
Yeah, we're going to see how important that's going to have to be for Alexander Vore here. And it does look like we're going to have an attack.
Yeah, brothers in arms from
Hey,
Michael
get in there.
Hamilton.
You didn't think about us attacking this round, did you?
I was mistaken. I guess maybe we should have had those Sync Belows in. But it is going to be a blue brothers in arms coming in for 4. And this is a card that I really think people are sleeping on right now. And, of course, it's Michael Hamilton bringing it to the table. Obviously a limited all-star. But I also think this card just has a constructed role to play as well. Very efficient, especially for decks which are routinely spending resources on opponents' turns. It's just such an efficient block 4. You love to see innovative use of cards. And here, just getting in for an attack, that's really cool usage and shows why a card like this could have even more utility than we're thinking. And look at this. Sync Below is the response.
I love that you're joking about having the Sync Belows in your deck, but here you go.
What is happening right now? Now, I will say, I went through Alexander Vore's list. There's a lot of bad cards.
Yeah,
in the matchup.
that might be a thing. It's like, what are we playing here? All the blues are probably in there.
Yeah, also, this is strange, again, and I think this matchup will be strange throughout, and this is a lot of speculation on my part. I would love to speak to these players afterwards, but you can make an argument that your attack, when you were able to connect with Nourishing Emptiness, is a real break point in the game.
And maybe that's why they're still in there.
Maybe.
If there's Nourishing Emptiness.
That seems so weird to me. Also, it turns out I don't believe Michael Hamilton actually has Nourishing Emptiness in his list, although Alexander Vore does. So maybe influenced a bit by the way he approaches the matchup. I don't know. We're going to see bizarre stuff here in this Islander mirror match, and I can't wait to see how these two expert players navigate this. I promise you they are both prepared for this. You don't make this kind of decision if you don't believe in a hero like Icelander, and you know you're going to be facing the mirror.
All right, Insidious Chill for Alexander Vore. Now we're seeing a Cold Snap out of Arsenal from Michael Hamilton. It is actually going to freeze the Arsenal for Alexander Vore here, and I think this is going to happen more often than you think it is in the matchup, because we saw Alexander Vore very often putting stuff in his arsenal that wasn't blue in the matchups earlier.
He does. Definitely trends in that direction. Very willing to arsenal a red card for some damage. In that case, Cold Snap could be quite good. I think, again, this is not a card I'm super thrilled to be playing in this matchup, but there's some holes, and you're going to see some scrappy play from these players because there just aren't that many bangers. Icelander is built to do a very specific thing, and the mirror is so weird. It's not really always going to get to do that. So now I'm also questioning, is fatigue something that could come into play as well with all this arcane barrier?
Yeah, we're going to have to see. So items on both sides of the board. We have a Insidious Chill for Vore here, and we have an Energy Potion and an Amulet of Ice set up for Michael Hamilton. So both players kind of setting up for the later turns. And it does look like Michael is going to put something into his arsenal here. I think that might have been an Emeritus Scolding. I was trying to get a look at it, but I did want to point something out to you. So you were kind of right and kind of wrong. You were talking about Michael Hamilton earlier.
That's
pretty
about typical, actually, Tannen. You should get used to that.
Sure. Talking about the Oldhim thing, I think he's quietly just become an Icelander stan lately. He forces it. Like, I don't want to say forces it, but I always see him end up an Icelander in all of his drafts at the Pro Tour and here. And, like, now we're seeing him play the deck and construct it. Maybe we have a convert.
Now, you know what I think about Michael Hamilton? He's a winning stan.
Okay.
He wants to win. He's going to play the best hero. Like, sure, we associate Michael Hamilton with Oldhim, but if you want to talk about Michael Hamilton's second calling win, it was on the back of Bravo, and he mentioned that at that point he was working really hard to make Oldhim work, and at the last minute said, you know what, I'm forcing this. I'm going to switch to Bravo. Switched to Bravo, played it in a very unorthodox defensive style, ultimately won the calling.
You know what? I think that this matchup is a microcosm of like what the high-level Flesh and Blood competition is. You have Alexander Vore, who is a Wizard stan, right? Like, he's always playing Wizard, loves Kano. Obviously, he's going to switch over to Icelander when it's very, very good. And it shows you like someone who really gets rewarded for knowing a certain hero type, a certain class, and does really well at it, right? And then you see Michael Hamilton on the other side, who can do the same thing, but also shows you the range of switching heroes as well, and is doing super well with other heroes, and shows you the, you don't have to just be a, you could be a one-trick pony. That's fine. You could be very good at your hero and get a lot out of it, or you can be like Michael Hamilton, be a little more flexible and really show you've got chops in every form of the game. Not to get anything from Alex. I'm sure he could do the same.
Sure, and to some extent, I think we also overstate how much Michael is actually devoted to the Guardian lifestyle. Michael played Viserai at Pro Tour 1, very willing to go outside the box and just find what he believes to be the best deck. And now it's the second time that Brothers in Arms going to go ahead, try and push some damage through here.
There's Brother in Arms blue, so it is attacking for a good break point at 4. And this does sidestep a lot of that arcane damage quite a bit. There's not a lot of arcane barrier that can stop Brothers in Arms.
That is very true. You do have generally good block values as Icelander. We are going to see a play here from Arsenal, I believe.
There's a brain freeze.
Yeah, a little brain freeze action.
I think this does
nothing.
Yeah, nothing except for activate the Waning Moon.
Yep, turn on Waning Moon. Just wanted to clear that out of Arsenal. Now the Waning Moon is going to be activated. Michael Hamilton going to just go ahead, AB.
Now they just put this,
that Alluvian Constellus.
That puts the second counter on it. I believe, yeah, it's going to be 4 energy counters whenever you can start to activate it.
Yeah, so it's a long grind, but it does matter a lot in this matchup. I'm so curious what Michael's game plan is here. This deck list is so unorthodox.
Let me correct myself. It's Alluvian Constellus. You can, if it has less than 4, it still activates to put it on.
It gains counters, but you can activate it at 2.
You can activate it too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I had to go ahead and check myself. It's been a while since I've seen that one get played.
Yeah, a lot of words on it. Complicated card.
I don't know if you know about this about me. I don't exactly read super well. So the more words, the more challenging. See, these cards are more my style. Deal 5 damage.
That's pretty easy.
I can get that one.
Yep. Now, usually you'd expect that 5 damage to just sail on through. Somehow, Michael Hamilton has AB5 ready to go. Should he want to just go ahead and pitch and prevent? And that's why I question, can you actually do damage in this matchup? And now Alexander Vore has started to go ahead and use some resources. The way this breaks open, and you can certainly do damage, is if you stack a bunch of Frost Hexes on your opponent's side. And I just have to believe that is what both players are playing towards here. It's all about piling up those Frost Hexes. That is ultimately what is going to be able to force through damage in this matchup.
Yeah, you see both the players kind of thinking that, we have items on both sides of the board building up.
Fighting Spirit in as well, so just fully ready to attack whenever he can.
Yeah, getting you through any extra damage means less turns of having to combo your opponent to push through extra damage. Yeah, I think I kind of like it.
Absolutely, really interesting stuff here. And now I wonder, does Alexander Vore have a similar setup? Now, Hamilton only has 1 Fighting Spirit in his list. Alexander Vore has 3, so should he view this matchup the same way, could have an advantage in terms of the number of Faendal's Fighting Spirits.
He's got 3 yellow ones as well. Yeah.
Will that matter? I'm not sure. Oh, let me correct myself, too. Actually, Michael Hamilton does have the advantage because he's got red Faendal's Fighting Spirits as well. Alexander Vore has...
Speaking of...
Yeah, Alexander Vore has 3 copies of yellow, Hamilton has 1 yellow, 3 red. Also has Scar for a Scar and Wounded Bull. The more I go into this deck list, the more I'm actually questioning anything I thought I knew about it. And I think Michael Hamilton's just the beatdown here.
I see some players they had a little giggle between each other there. Like something was probably said that was pretty funny, but I wonder if it's along the lines of Alexander Vore's like, how many times are you going to attack me, bro?
I think the answer is a lot, actually.
So it does look like we got a block here, but this is going to bleed through quite a bit of damage. And you've got a nice amount of Arcane Barrier over there that Michael Hamilton just doesn't care about.
I am so fascinated now by Michael Hamilton's deck list. I'm digging ever deeper. And Michael Hamilton, we know, an absolute innovator, able to push things forward. Wounded Bull, if you're not familiar with it, that's a 3-cost red, 7 attack, 2 block. When you play Wounded Bull, if you have less life than your opponent, it gains +1. So Michael Hamilton maybe just looking to attack for 8 in this matchup if those Wounded Bulls are also in.
It's like a Starvo effect. Let's go. Yeah, there we go for everybody at home. It's been a while since I've seen Wounded Bull.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen Wounded Bull.
I've played a lot of this limited format, so I've seen it, but it almost never makes the decks is the problem because it costs so much. Yeah.
I was talking in the constructed space.
Oh,
I
never.
Yeah, I can't think of another time.
We have another fighting spirit, and Alexander's going to be starting to question some stuff here. Like, what is going on? All right, so energy pot going to get played here. Maybe a waning moon activation while only one card is in Michael Hamilton's hand.
This is so interesting because I've gotten basically everything wrong about this matchup thus far, but I'm going to keep speculating because that's what they pay me to do, and there's no consequences for me being completely wrong.
Now, there is a sink below here. It's going to stop 4 of it. 3's going to bleed through.
Here's what I'm thinking about this matchup. Michael Hamilton has all these cards that offer damage. Should Alexander Vore want to prevent that damage, he has to block. Blocking puts cards in your graveyard. Should Michael Hamilton want to prevent Alexander Vore's damage,
puts him on the bottom of his deck.
He pitches.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, okay, Michael Hamilton is attacking a bunch. That's interesting. Maybe he's trying to kill Alexander Vore. Maybe that's not true. Maybe he's actually trying to fatigue Alexander Vore by attacking a bunch.
Now, Alexander Vore did get to put off a Frost Hex onto Michael, so step 1 on that. Now, this is an Emeritus Scolding.
Offering a little extra burst of arcane damage here on Alexander Vore's turn. I'm just now intrigued, deep in the tank, staring at this deck list, understanding all the ways that Michael Hamilton is much, much, much smarter than me and better at flesh and blood than me. And I mean, look, we've seen Michael Hamilton rewrite metagames before. Enlightened Strike is also in his list. And now I'm just like, well, how did Alexander Vore know that Michael Hamilton was playing the more aggressive version of Icelander? I mean, Michael Hamilton, content creator, podcaster. Maybe Alexander listened to his podcast and Michael Hamilton wasn't playing it close to the vest.
Maybe they even chatted a little bit of,
Totally possible.
Here's the thing. I know if I'm switching to a hero and there is a very good player that is known for playing those heroes, I'm going to try to pick their brain if they'll let me.
Yep.
Alexander Vore down to 24 here. Most of this physical damage this game as well. Didn't really expect that to happen until I saw this list. We got the list from Michael Hamilton a little late into the games. This would have been great to have known this was coming.
You know, it's funny, Tan, and I talked earlier in the day when we first came on about assumptions around heroes and their matchups, and saying how when we say, you know, Fi is favored versus Oldhim, we're not really telling the story. It's not necessarily true. And then I kind of fell into my own trap when we got to this mirror match, because it's a mirror match. It's a 50-50, right? They're playing the same deck. Not at all. Not at all.
You ever given a gift to somebody and then they give you the same gift?
Yeah, and that is what's going on here, a little Frost Hex exchange. I heard you liked Frost Hex, so I got a Frost Hex for you. Also, pitching a Frost Hex to play the Frost Hex was Michael Hamilton. So
that was a lot of you saying Frost Hex very fast.
I know. I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to take some time off. You take over.
Okay. I need to find the alliteration here in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't know where we go. I guess Feyendel's Fighting Spirit, right?
That's a good one. There you go. There you go. Click a little damage is going to get put over to the side of Michael Hamilton here. Down to 33, but Alexander Vore at 21. His life total being threatened in a very different way than we assumed this matchup. We haven't seen an Enlightened Strike yet, but I've got to believe these are in the list. Or in the deck for this matchup.
Yeah, I think once you see like the Fighting Spirits, it's a pretty safe assumption.
I do start to wonder how many reds he can afford to have in his deck, though, in this matchup. That might be a thing that comes in.
Okay, good question. So maybe Enlightened Strike only does 5 when it's only one
and the
card,
other ones are 7 and 8.
7?
Yeah.
It would not shock me.
And I kind of like, I'm not saying that this is the best way to play the matchup, obviously. You know, I don't know the minutia of this matchup with these two exact lists being so weird. But, you know, Michael's really picking his spots to do arcane damage, and it seems like he's been doing them pretty well. And but with him attacking the way it is, he's forcing Alex to, you have to do something.
Yeah. And
so it's giving him better spots.
You're exactly right. He's picking great windows, like waiting until Alexander Vore is doing something on his turn, went ahead and deployed that Ice Bolt. So now it was time for Michael to go ahead and fire off Emeritus Scolding. Alexander Vore, though, again, perfect response, as Alexander Vore often does. Oasis Respite, going to go ahead and prevent that damage, gain a little life for
It's going to be the full 5 for the Oasis Respite. Love when I get the extra value off of it.
Oh, yeah. Love me a little life gain.
So 5 still on the stack here for Michael Hamilton.
I hope these players remember to exchange Frost Hexes after the game, because it looks like Alexander's that he gave to Michael Hamilton were, in fact, cold foil. So got to preserve that value again.
Yeah, it does look like we're going to get a little bit of Arcane Barrier here.
Yeah, 2 floating as well, so potentially ready to use.
Yeah, it looks
that
like the Waning Moon. Yeah.
Here it comes.
This is going to be for 3. I believe we're in Alexander's turn. Again, you can lose track of these turns pretty easily. Yeah, it does look like the 3-point. There we go.
I think you're exactly right, Tannen. And, you know, interesting developments going on.
I was
in this
pretty
game.
sure, but you start to doubt.
I understand.
You start to doubt. It creeps in.
Look how much more value Michael Hamilton has gotten from his Alluvian Constellus because of the way Alexander Vore is playing this game versus the way Michael Hamilton is playing it. Now, I believe, has put counters on that 4 times. That's a net of 4 resources, and that matters a lot. Again, you talk about card economy. Hamilton's just going to go ahead and Arsenal on this turn.
Look, Alexander's lining up a play here. It looks like he's got...
Okay. All right. So these players are just way smarter than I am. That's fine.
Brian, don't leave the booth. Don't leave the booth.
No,
say.
I'll see you
It's
later,
okay. You could say.
Both players have figured it out, deploying these Faendal's Fighting Spirits.
This will gain a life as well, right? Oh, no, it's only when you defend with it.
Defend or attack.
It's defend or attack. Okay.
Yep.
It's been a while on this one for me. Yep. Sorry.
Gaining life either way. Now
I see 2 Enlightened Strikes in Michael's hands. So everything's in.
Full beatdown. Yep. So these are obviously a little smaller than Michael Hamilton's with the red version. Ready to go. Only 6 being presented here from Alexander Vore. Doesn't sound like a big difference, but this is going to be a game of absolute millimeters.
Is that for the European crowd?
Yes.
Okay.
Look, Europe is the king of flesh and blood right now.
I think if we were to do it for the Americans, you'd have to say, like, it's going to have the length of a small rock. Mm-hmm. You have to actually give them an item. You can't give them an actual unit of measurement.
We don't know any units of measurement over here.
You always compare it to something small or large.
1 rock.
1 small rock. We got to be careful. Not a boulder, a rock.
Double block here from Michael Hamilton. Both of those Enlightened Strikes being used to defend.
Oh, we got a 3rd.
Did he draw all 3? He really did. Wow.
Looks like we're going to tuck a card here.
3 of a kind.
What do I win, dealer? This is just going to be for the full 7 here.
Love it.
Very, very good amount of damage.
Nailing those breakpoints, demanding 2 cards, still going to leak a damage. Michael Hamilton all about those 7s right now. Are they going to be lucky 7s?
It's a good question. This is a lot of... Frostbites coming here.
That Michael Hamilton does not care about because of the way he's playing this game. I think he's
still going to represent a ton of damage, though, from the Frost Hexes.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, Tannen.
But it's not going to tax him in any way.
Yeah. Frost Hex matters a bunch in this context, and Alexander Vore, I think Michael Hamilton has the life advantage right now. Seemingly, if this beatdown plan is the way to go, has the deck construction edge due to things like Wounded Bull, slightly larger effects, but if there's a big advantage that Alexander Vore has, it's 2 Frost Hexes to 1 right now.
So you just said that someone has the deck advantage in Classic Constructed because of Wounded Bull, a statement I never thought would be said in the history of Flesh and Blood.
Look, we haven't actually seen a Wounded Bull yet, so maybe I'm overstating that specific card's impact, but I do think Michael Hamilton has more 7 power attacks in his deck. And that seems to be a key factor in this matchup.
Hamilton going to draw up here.
Still no Wounded Bull. We're on Wounded Bull watch, just waiting to see our first Wounded Bull.
What deck are you playing here this weekend? Wounded Bull aggro.
Yeah, just Wounded Bull beatdown.
Generic attack beatdown.
Pretty standard, honestly.
Yeah. I would never have guessed your hero. I would have needed about 14 guesses to get to the right hero.
Yeah, I needed that many guesses as well, and I actually had the deck list in front of me. So.
Yeah, I was just about to say, though, if you like what you're seeing from Michael Hamilton all this weekend, make sure you check out his podcast. You can see it right there on his sleeves as well. Great content creator for FAB. Absolutely loves the game. Great mind for it. I know I definitely listen in on stuff, especially when he talks about Limited, to help get some ideas about what to do for the upcoming metas.
So many great Flesh and Blood content creators out there. So many people just making such high-quality content, spreading this game, teaching the game to all the new players we've welcomed to our ranks over the past year.
Myself included.
So thankful for all of them.
Even me?
Not you.
Okay.
All the non-Tannen content creators. I'm just a huge
You didn't even think about it. You snapped no.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
I know where my bread is buttered. Producer Rob weighing in that if maybe Tannen won a tournament once in a while, I could support him more. But, that's just the way this stuff goes. Tannen has died. I actually saw his soul leave his body as producer Rob weighed in. Faendal's Fighting Spirit from Michael Hamilton. Another 7 power attack. Not gaining any life because Michael Hamilton's had the life lead. Going to go ahead and take 2 cards from Alexander Vore again.
I don't know if I'm ever going to recover from that fully.
I understand.
You might just have to do this by yourself tomorrow.
I'm ready. I'm ready, baby.
That's an improvement.
Look, I can get things just as wrong without you, Tannen.
That's true. How many attacks do we have left in Michael Hamilton's deck? I think we're getting actually pretty low.
Like I said, it depends on whether Wounded Bull is in
yeah,
there.
right? We're looking for that one.
We continue to be on Wounded Bull watch. Have not seen one yet. I don't know. We've made some good progress through the deck. I don't think we're quite touching the second cycle yet, but I am beginning to doubt whether Wounded Bull is present, and this is about the time when Wounded Bull should show up and, again, make me look like a clown, and I believe it has now done so. So there you are.
Alexander Vore down to 18, Michael at 26. So Michael's going to go ahead and cold snap out of the arsenal here. It's going to draw a card and present a Frostbite over to Alexander Vore.
Very nice. And I do believe we're on Alexander Vore's turn at this point.
Question
mark?
Yeah. Somebody's turn. It's our turn.
Yep.
There are frost hexes for both sides now.
And now we know we are on Alexander's turn because it is going to make a Frostbite when that cold snap fires off. Okay, that's a Heart of Feyendel. Has a Channel Lake Frigid in hand, ready to go. Maybe Wounded Bulls. We're still on Wounded Bull watch.
So Waning Moon activation, they're going to have a pitched blue here to prevent the damage, but the Frostbite damage is going to come through. And it looks like for Alexander's turn, he's just going to Arsenal it and pass.
Yeah, that's a totally acceptable turn as you're playing Icelander. I don't think you really have to feel bad about that, but it's just a question of what you're going to be faced with.
I think I see multiple attacks.
We have double Wounded Bull in hand right now.
It almost looks like triple with that Fable.
Yeah. Heart of Feyendel is the other card, but we are going to see our first Wounded Bull. Wounded Bull watch is over. We have confirmed they are present in the deck, and I really want to see Alexander Vore's face here. I saw it in the eyes. I saw a moment of Wounded Bull.
I'd have to read this one if you played it against me. I'd be like, hold on a minute.
Yep.
I need a refresher.
Vore just takes it in stride, though, and he's like, all right, yeah, I'll find my 6th block here. So a lot of questions I have right now. What does deck size look like? I'm also very curious what Alexander Vore's endgame plan is. I think you just saw it pitched, actually. I think it's that Ice Eternal. I do think Alexander Vore trying to play towards that Frost Hex setup, catch Michael Hamilton without the juice in hand and just blow him up in one turn. A little OTK, Icelander. And, you know, I keep talking about how I feel Icelander might very well be the best hero in Flesh and Blood right now.
It gets to play Wounded Bull. Of course it's the best hero
Obviously,
in Flesh and
that's
Blood.
a huge part of it. But this is part of the reason. It can do so many things from the baseline configuration. In sideboarding, you can completely change the way your deck plays. You can set up these OTKs. You can be like Michael Hamilton and just have poppers out the back door. If you were ever to face a Dromai, you would destroy them. They would never have a turn. You just have so many poppers.
I believe we're back over to Alexander Vore here. I think he's considering what he wants to do for certain if he just wants to Arsenal and pass here. Players having a discussion about something, it looks like. Or maybe we're back over to Michael here.
Yeah, I think we might be on Michael's turn. No attacks, I believe, in this go-around. So
is there a Wounded Bull in the Arsenal? That's a big question for me. I think the Wounded Bull, the second copy, might be of Arsenal.
Right. I think you're right. I think that is Arsenal, which will certainly change the play pattern here. You do not want that to stick around for too long. You prefer, you know, a little bit of disruption.
So we were in Alexander. He was waiting to see if he could Arsenal, and
absolutely.
Michael was bluffing a blue card, which I think is a decent play.
Yep. Well, he's going to reveal it right now.
Yeah, and I was just joking. Just joking. JK.
Wounded Bull again, Alexander. 7 more damage headed your way.
So it looks like we're going to have a Frostbite get created here at instant speed. Amulet of Ice making it into play here for Alexander Vore. Life total's getting a little low here. 16 for Alexander Vore. This is an attack for 7. Going to need multiple cards here, plus something else if he wants to not take damage. All right, an Oasis Respite.
Sure, nice little block there.
It's going to stop 4 damage from the card, plus gain a life, so it's going to stop 5.
And let's also keep close track, Tannen, of equipment-based resources that both these players still have access to. Metacarpus node ready to juice up. Arcane damage. Storm Striders still ready to present things at unexpected times. these players with a lot of options available. And as soon as you have those Frost Hexes on your side, you have to really fear the Storm Striders. They can do a ton of damage out of absolutely nowhere and just end your day, especially when energy potions are already accumulating onto the arena. So that represents, you have a Ice Eternal in Arsenal. You find an ice card, 3 blues, pop those energy potions. You're now making 5 Frostbites, doing 5 arcane damage. You combine that with some Frost Hexes, you can get out of control very quickly.
Yeah, it looks like that arcane damage is going to be prevented by Michael Hamilton, and he's going to go ahead and Arsenal and pass on over. Really make sure you stack the deck correctly. There's a chance we get down to these cards.
Yeah, I think that matters a lot. I think we're playing very much towards the second cycle here.
Yeah, you can't just, Arsenal pass here for Alexander. You got to give Michael a chance here. He's going to have a lot of cards in his hand and a card in Arsenal, so he might do some stuff here when you've only got this one card. In fact, this is kind of shields down. I think I see another attack in his hand here, too.
Yeah, I think it's another Wounded Bull. Of course.
Why wouldn't it be? Of course it's Wounded Bull.
Yeah, and
what else would it be?
Tempo check, Tannen. Who's got the tempo?
I believe Michael Hamilton has the tempo here.
I think so.
Your definition or mine?
The combination, our definition. Okay. But I do think Alexander Vore, though, is winning on an important metric. That's Frost Hexes, 2 Frost Hexes out there. And, it doesn't seem like that should matter that much. But like I mentioned, as soon as Frost Hexes accumulate, the potential for out-of-nowhere damage becomes much, much higher. And it looks like Michael Hamilton, just with nothing to do on Alexander Vore's turn, that tells me maybe non-blue card there in Arsenal. Let's see if that gets cleared here. We do have the Wounded Bull in hand, ready to go. Yeah, and there's a pitched Ice Eternal. You see these players just working those Ice Eternals to the bottom of the deck. It is going to be Ether Ice Vein fired off. And it looks like that's a red. And here's a pretty crucial breakpoint in this matchup. Alexander Vore, AB4. Michael Hamilton, AB5. Why does that number matter so much? Well, that's how much Ice Vein is representing here. 5 damage headed the way of Alexander Vore. So that means there's going to have to be some kind of other effect if this is going to be fully prevented.
Not to mention there's a Frost Hex being revealed to it as well. A card that this is very relevant in the fact that if this gets into play, now we're even on Frost Hexes in the game.
You can pretty safely assume that's headed into the arsenal after this, although we see other options for Michael Hamilton. I think Alexander deployed a bit of AB there, maybe preventing some of the damage and also preventing the discard was the play. Alexander falling to 15. So that does track.
Looks like we're going to go ahead and cash in this Amulet of Ice.
Yeah.
Alex not happy about this. He's only got 2 cards in his hand.
May as well. And Michael Hamilton continuing to seize that nebulous tempo.
And I think it's very important here from the way that Hamilton has constructed his deck. I think he has to be less choosy when he uses his Amulet of Ice.
Okay.
Because I think he's going to be fusing a lot less often than Alexander Vore. At least it looks like so far.
Yeah. So there was a response here from Vore. It's the 3rd Frost Hex. And now, with 2 energy potions, triple Frost Hex floating around out there, there's got to be an element of fear to Michael Hamilton's play. Even at 26, that's not a particularly safe life total when you're facing down these things. You could just lose the game in the span of 1 or 2 turns. So every single Frostbite made now going to represent a sizable amount of damage. Just that lone Frostbite out there, threatening 3. I expect we'll see pretty aggressive use of Arcane Barrier on these Frost Hex triggers.
Nice clean play from Michael here. He's going to go ahead and activate the Alluvian in response just to get less counters on it. So his next staff ability is going to be free.
Yep.
But this means when he does prevent some arcane damage here, he's going to go back up on those counters. Nice tight play from Michael Hamilton here.
Very important. Very important to just maximize every single point when it comes to Flesh and Blood. And we see stack getting a little complicated now. Waning Moon going to be fired off.
Has the Frostbite resolved?
I don't believe it has yet. Okay,
maybe it has. Okay, there he has.
Now it has.
All right, so Waning Moon in response for free.
And that's going to go ahead and break that Frostbite.
Because this is great. It makes it 3 less.
Yep.
So you can break a Frostbite with this. This is great for Michael Hamilton. Yeah, that's really cool.
And that is the way cost reduction works. It's able to overpay for Frostbites, a really, really critical thing to note, Tannen. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll keep you.
Does look like that Frost Hex is going to get pitched here, though, to prevent some damage from the Waning Moon.
Yeah, and I think we see a little bit of over-pitching from Michael Hamilton, wanting to get those cards back onto the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, cleared these out.
Yep, set up the perfect arsenal. Again, just incredible play from both these players. Just absolutely perfect.
Maybe a little more worried about attacking into a turn where your opponent's going to have 4 cards and you have three frost hexes on your
I
side?
think that's fair. I do think Michael Hamilton has to start playing with some fear. I don't think he can afford to just take his foot off the gas. He has to continue to present threats, but there is some uncertainty now, and here we see an energy potion coming out from Michael Hamilton. So starting to amass some of those resources that Alexander Vore has done a very good job of amassing. Lacking those frost hexes, though. We know one's on the bottom of the deck, was just pitched. One was pitched earlier as well. Probably getting to around the area of the deck where we may see that frost hex pop up in the second cycle.
See a Waning Moon activation for Michael here.
Yeah, on the back of that energy potion. And I believe this is on Alexander's turn before draw, question mark? I see the 4 cards set aside there. Yep, those are picked up now.
Does look like it's going to get through, so that's 11.
And I think we're headed back to Michael's turn here. There's Ether Ice Vein again, and it is going to be fused with an Ice Bolt.
And the third Oasis Respite from Alexander Vore, very well timed like the other ones. Looks like he's going to gain a life here, right off the... Yep.
Gains off the Respite. I'm assuming also doing a little bit of AB here or preventing the discard. Yep, there you see the AB channeled into Alluvian Constellus. Man, I get why Michael Hamilton wants to attack in this matchup because it just doesn't feel like it works out all that well every time you send arcane damage at your opponent.
Yeah, trying to get any kind of chip damage through has proved to be pretty futile for both the players.
All you really do is charge up their Alluvian Constellus. And there you see cashing in a couple of tokens on that Constellus. Waning Moon going to be activated for Alexander Vore. Some banger matches today, Tannen.
Oh, absolutely. This is my favorite part about Flesh and Blood over the last year that I've been doing it is, while the play was obviously very good when I first started, I think that the players have just gotten better and better and better as the year has gone on. We've seen more content creation happen. We've seen, players start to rise to the top and make teams, and that's just elevated the play all the way around. In every tournament that I do casting for now, I'm always like, that was the most well-played tournament that I've done casting for until my next one.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Players are only getting better. Here we see our second activation of that Coronet Peak. Of course, we talked about this early in the game. A critical decision for Alexander Vore. Went with the Coronet Peak instead of the AB5. We saw it come up on one turn where Alexander did get fairly punished by the Ether Ice Vein for not having AB5, but now trying to take advantage of that peak. Going to go ahead and activate Alluvian Constellus, do some reduction on that next ability from
the wand. Yeah. Looks like an Ice Bolt from Arsenal. It's going to bring a Frostbite.
Interesting.
Activation of an energy pot.
Yeah.
This is about to get complicated.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think we're doing this all in advance of this Frostbite coming through. So energy potion looks like it will resolve. Give Alexander those 2 resources. So now has 2 resources. This player is just being very clear, making sure we're at exactly the right step in the turn. Now you see there is that Ice Bolt on the stack. The Frostbite has now resolved. We haven't seen the Waning Moon yet because no non-attack action has been played, I believe, from Alexander Vore's side. We're still waiting on that. I'm still waiting on the Coronet Peak resolution as well. And that tells me the Ice Bolt has now resolved.
Yeah, it's going to get paid for with the floating resource from Michael Hamilton. Timing all these plays very well.
Timing is everything when you're a Wizard player. It's so critical to understand the intricacies of Flesh and Blood's rules. Timing, very, very important. Waning Moon activation from Michael Hamilton here. And now it's time to go ahead and fire off what looks like an Ether Hail. No, that's being pitched. I'm sorry. That was pitched to AB. And that means that Alluvian Constellus goes unused. Totally fine. Was able to add some more counters to it. Just wanted to preserve the option, maybe break that Frostbite.
Hamilton deep in thought here.
Yeah, Hamilton has done a good job keeping the pressure up with those attacks. The Wounded Bull beatdowns coming through fast and furious. But now we see a hand with a little bit less oomph. Alexander Vore doing a good job of challenging it. And of course, Alexander Vore, I mean, look at all those permanents over on his side of the arena. It's just Insidious Chill, Amulet of Ice, Energy Potion. And then there's the the permanents that are sitting over on Michael Hamilton's side. 3 Frost Hex.
Yeah, this is a red Aether Hail being played on Alexander Vore's turn. So this is going to be attacking, trying to damage Hamilton for 4. I was so used to them attacking in this game earlier.
No, we're done with that part now. Now we're in the Aether Hail phase. Go ahead, fire off 4 here. Michael Hamilton going to do some ABing. Again, taking up that Alluvian Constellus. Yeah, looks like full AB there for Michael Hamilton. And Alexander Vore just moves to Arsenal. 2 resources go unused. And we head back to Michael Hamilton's turn.
I see a Channel Lake Frigid in the hand. We've got a card in the arsenal. How does he want to play this turn? It looks like he's going to go ahead and just Channel Lake Frigid here.
Makes sense to me, yeah. Just go ahead and put a little disruption down, make things tough on Alexander Vore. Of course, Alexander Vore with the ability to respond to that. And I think Alexander is just looking for a few more points of damage. With those Frost Hexes piling up, there's going to be a window at some point in this game to go ahead and fire off a massive salvo towards Michael Hamilton. That's what Alexander Vore is playing towards. However, I don't think he's going to find success with Michael Hamilton at 26. I think he needs to find a little bit more damage. Should he not be able to, as I mentioned earlier, those attacks being deployed by Michael Hamilton, they asked a lot of Alexander Vore in terms of how many resources had to be committed to blocking. And what's I think we're ultimately going to see in this game is we keep talking about how Michael Hamilton's behind on Frost Hexes, but he's ahead on life. That means he has time. He can find those Frost Hexes. At some point, he's going to be threatening Alexander Vore both with fatigue and with those Frost Hexes. And that's going to spur Alexander Vore to desperate actions. As soon as that happens, the door is open to absolutely blow someone up. So I think, you know, this matchup has already seen so many intricate moves. I don't think it's anywhere near completed. I think there's still a lot of work to be done on both players' sides to try and get to their desired endgame.
Alexander Vore is still thinking about exactly how he wants to respond to this Channel Lake Frigid, and he finally makes a move here. He's going to be cracking Energy Pot, so he's going to have 2 floating.
Yeah, and having burned through a couple of those energy pots now due to Michael Hamilton's pressure. And I think this is also an effect of what Michael Hamilton has been able to do to Alexander Vore's life total. There's all these cascading implications of this early aggression we saw from Michael Hamilton with those Feyendel's Fighting Spirits, with the Wounded Bolts. They're all subtly shaping this very different looking stage of the map, but they're all based on how Michael Hamilton was able to gain those advantages early. Such a great representation of how Flesh and Blood is such a beautiful game. There's so many moving parts, so many layers to what kind of game state we're being forced towards at this moment. And Michael Hamilton understands them all. To take nothing away from Alexander Vore, also an equally accomplished player.
Yeah, we saw an amazing match navigated by him earlier when he's playing against Dorinthia. That was just a pleasure to watch.
I don't know what the public perception is of Icelander. You know, certain heroes are more popular than others. Some
are like cult classic, cult heroes.
You know, some people hate playing against certain heroes. Some people get frustrated by playing against Ice Lexi, or were continually frustrated by Starvo or Prism. I don't know where Icelander falls on that spectrum. I think it's such a great hero for Flesh and Blood. I could watch these matches for hours.
If it had like a bar, on what side of it is, it would be on the side of like more the hero side, I think, right now.
I think
as
so.
in like the beloved, like, oh, I'd love to see Icelander do well.
Yep.
But if it starts doing really well and people get
quickly.
really bad for people, it's going to change real fast.
You're exactly right, Tannen. Things can always change quickly. Here we see that big attack I've been keeping my eye on throughout this entire game. We have our first Ice Eternal fired off from Alexander Vore in response to that Channel Lake Frigid. And that card, especially threatening because of the combination with Frost Hex, can just go ahead, dump a bunch of resources into it, and threaten a lot of Frostbites for Michael Hamilton. And you know they're probably not going to get popped at this point. So it is going to be fused.
Oh, this is really big here, too.
Insidious Chill going to go ahead and get activated. I don't think Michael Hamilton has a hand at this point. So that's just going to go ahead and whiff. But those Ice Eternals are out there. And it looks like now Michael Hamilton wants to deploy some energy potions.
Yeah, this is 4 Frostbites.
Yeah. It's a lot of arcane damage headed Michael Hamilton's way.
He's going to be able to stock up on resources here. Maybe able to stop a lot of this arcane damage. Looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah, step 1 is going to go ahead and clear off that Alluvian Constellus to get a little bit more value out of it.
Yep, might as well.
And that will help with clearing out those Frostbites for sure. Does it allow him to actually take out all 4 is the question.
All right, the players are discussing some timing on this. This can get really, really complicated, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I think this setup is going to work out really well for Michael Hamilton. I think he's just going to be able to power through these Frostbites with his Waning Moon activation, which will be reduced by Alluvian Constellus.
Did take 2 here, so he is down to 22. All right, so he's going to activate Waning Moon, power through this, because it is 3 cheaper now. It's 3 more expensive, so it's going to take away a bunch of the Frostbites.
Yeah, and you see why Alluvian Constellus. I mused about the possibility of maybe go ahead and deploying Fanadil's Spring Tunic in this matchup. This is exactly why you can't afford to do that. It's just too critical to fighting through these scenarios.
It does look like we're going to have a Waning Moon activation from Vore in response.
Yep, makes sense. Go ahead, fire off that Alluvian Constellus. Probably going to see some AB as well, is my guess.
Yeah. So Waning Moon technically free here, but it's going to cost more because of Frostbite. So we're going to power through this.
Yeah, and now we're going to go ahead. I think what happened there was Michael Hamilton tried to activate the Waning Moon before the Channel Lake Frigid had actually resolved.
Right.
It has to actually resolve first before the Waning Moon is turned on. The effect is the same, just making sure it is important to get all this.
We got to get the timing correctly. Like you technically can't activate your Waning Moon just yet.
Correct.
Because we forgot that Channel Lake Frigid was still in the stack, and we had played or had about 17 things get activated since then.
Yeah, we talked about how we didn't think things would get like Kano level complicated.
We were wrong.
That turn was pretty complicated. And I think as you reach this endgame state, that will continue to be something that we will encounter.
Yeah, once we move to past the Wounded Bull phase of the game, now it's going to get complicated.
Oh, I still think there's a Wounded Bull in there, by the way. I think we might see one more Wounded Bull.
One's been shifted around. Yeah. I hope it ends the game for Michael if he wins. That would just be poetic.
Yes, that would be beautiful. Looks like a pitch of a Brain Freeze. Cold Snap, going to go ahead and try and lock down the Arsenal. Looks like it will succeed. Draws a card as well.
Yeah, no cards in hand for Alexander Vore here, so Michael just kind of having his way this turn. Looks like he's all signs are go to just fire at will.
I actually think that Cold Snap did nothing. I don't think the card was in Arsenal yet at that point. So
sure.
But just going to go ahead and use that to turn on the Waning Moon. It is going to do more damage. So Alexander Vore falling down to a precarious 8, I would say. 7. Frostbite also doing work alongside that Singleton Frost Hex. And Vore just going to draw up. Turn back to Michael Hamilton.
Another Ice Vein, and he's been able to fuse all of them this game as well.
Yeah, very patient. That is a blue one, so only representing 3 here. That is going to be Arcane Barrierable. Barrierable?
There we go. Bearable. Arcane. He stopped it with Arcane Barrier.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Follow up Waning Moon.
That brought me back to when we were doing a lot of chain games and we talked about if something was huskable or not.
And, of course, who could forget the combat chain versus hero chain confusion?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a great one as well. So.
Yeah, Vore with a couple cards in hand after that turn. Not the best output from Hamilton. We are starting to get to the blue phase of the game, I would say. A lot more blues left in the deck than when we started. That's why you see those things like the Ether Ice Vein 4-3.
If you're loving what you're seeing, make sure you thank LSS and us for putting on this amazing show and bringing it to you in this round. If you not a big fan of the Icelander mirror match, it was picked by Flake, so blame Flake.
Nah, I'm Team Flake on this one. I am enjoying every second of these 2 top-tier players.
To be fair, and to be honest, I'm enjoying this way more than I thought I would. I thought I'd be like, it'd be all right. Hopefully I can keep up with things going on. This has just been an amazing match to have. All right, so this looks like it's going to be an Ice Bolt from Arsenal.
Yeah, we are on Alexander Vore's turn right now, so this is going to offer some disruption.
Looks like Metacarpus Nodes is getting activated.
Okay, this could be an interesting point.
We're trying to kill him.
Yeah,
looks like.
So when you start activating the Metacarpus Node, not only is that a source of damage in this matchup, but that is also AB.
Yeah, I think this has to do with the channeling Frigid's probably going away this turn, and Michael's thinking this is maybe his best chance to pounce.
I'm okay with that read from Michael Hamilton. I like trying to get a little extra damage in here. What's the follow-up going to be? Are we looking like full Storm Strider's turn here? Are we getting as wide as possible? Or is this just like...
Let's see.
Yeah, this is an interesting question.
It does look like we're having a reaction to the Metacarpus nodes here.
Yeah,
All right, it looks like it could be AB activation. Okay.
No, that's payment of the Metacarpus node. So
I'm trying to keep up with everything here. This is going to be a complicated turn. All right, so this is going to be for 4.
Yeah.
And the players at tables 19 and 150, that is Michael Dalton, Nick Gabler, Lucas Birch, and James Balthus. Please report your results.
So we're going to have a little bit more from Michael Hamilton here. We've got a pitch going. What's going to follow this? Maybe
James Balthus, please report your result.
looks like a waning moon activation here with a resource floating.
Yeah, representing 3. And if you're Alexander Vore, you're keeping an eye on those Storm Striders. How much damage do they represent? Are they able to cross the threshold to lethal is the question you have to be asking. It looks like Alexander Vore just going to go ahead.
So go down to 4. This looks like the Storm Striders
There's
are getting
the
activated.
Storm Striders. Here's energy
pot.
potion. I think Michael Hamilton has found the window. There is the Ether Hail.
Yeah, when he speeds up his play,
Yep.
you know the end is near.
That is going to push a Frostbite through. And these Frostbites also matter towards the lethal calculation. That is going to get the fist bump from Alexander Vore, and that means Michael Hamilton